Hey guys, I shouldn't really be making this video because it should be in some pre-recorded online lecture, but something that happened yesterday has been bugging me so much that I don't think I could stay silent on it. So here is the situation. Poland has already had some of the strictest abortion laws in Europe, and yesterday the so-called Constitutional Court ruled in favour of essentially banning all abortions, except in the cases of rape or incest or when the mother's health is in danger. So I don't really even know if I can talk about this because I'm a man and I'm never going to bear the brunt of a pregnancy, but in this video I don't really want to give my political opinion or try and persuade anyone to anything. I just kind of want to outline what the situation is and try and arrive logically at why that decision was wrong. And I also want to explore the idea of pro-life a little bit differently. But inevitably in this video I will be stating my opinion and stating some facts, but I don't want to hide behind the fact that I'm stating my opinion. This is a very sensitive issue, but one that requires some discussion and some debate, so if there's something you disagree with that I'm saying, or if I'm getting something factually incorrect, then definitely call me out and let's discuss this. Let me know in the comments, because these decisions require a conversation. The way in which this new law differs from the previous law is that it now bans abortions in the case of fetal defects or fetal malformations, deeming them unconstitutional. What has been said many times and what I think is true is that despite this new law, it won't mean less abortions, it will just mean less safe abortions. Okay, so what does pro-life mean? When we hear it right now, it's associated with a totally anti-abortion stance, carrying all pregnancies right through to the end. I think this is a very black and white view, one that's characteristic of an ethical school proposed by Kant, so-called Kantian ethics, where you're not really wondering about the consequences of your action, you've just decided on a position and you're going to firmly stick to it. So in this case, the government has decided on a position that essentially all abortions are unconstitutional, are illegal, and they are sticking to that. They are being pro-life, classically pro-life. But I think the phrase pro-life requires a different ethical school of thought, so-called utilitarianism. In this school of thought, the righteousness or the morality of an action is not determined by the stance that you take before the action, but it's actually determined by the consequences of that action. So I think the phrase pro-life can be expanded not to just include the life of the fetus and then the baby, but to also include the lives of the mother and the father and all the lives that will be involved in the life of that baby. Are we truly being pro-life in the broader sense of the word when we are bringing into the world a baby whose quality of life will be severely affected by the defects or the disabilities that it has? I'm not saying that such a child can't have a wonderful life, but there are certainly cases where because of financial reasons or other reasons, that's not entirely possible. That's why I think that when it comes to a subject as serious as abortions, we shouldn't take a very black and white and Kantian view. I think that's also true of governments, regardless of the issue that they are deciding or debating upon. They should conduct this kind of utilitarian calculus and decision making because of the fact that they wield a lot of power and they should wield it responsibly. A government's decisions should reflect that of the people that it governs. So in the case of abortions in Poland last year, there were slightly over, I think, 1,000, but only 2% of those occurred in the cases that will now be legal, so due to rape, incest, or a risk to the mother. The remaining 98% of legal abortions that were performed last year were for fetal defects. So if for a minute we leave aside the righteousness or the wrongness of this decision, we can see straight away that the government isn't really governing for its people any longer. And I think this is now getting into the realm of some political philosophy or theory which I don't really know about, and it's certainly a very idealistic thing that I'm proposing, and real life is rarely ideal, but it's certainly something to think about, that the decisions that the government and the constitutional court is making no longer reflect the actions of its people. But maybe abortions, or at least abortions in the case of fetal defects, are no longer even a political issue. As with everything, I think abortions are on some kind of spectrum. You can either allow all of them or ban all of them. Poland was already banning the majority of them, so being quite conservative in that sense. But now banning abortions in the case of fetal defects no longer really seems like a political decision or a political issue, but a health issue, meaning that you are pro-abortion, or at least pro-abortion in the case of a fetal defect, doesn't mean that you conduct abortions always. It means that you have the choice and the freedom to make that decision if you so choose. And this is one of the reasons why there's been such an uproar and such disagreement with the decision, is because it now seems like this is a decision that is taking away people's right to choose, not on a political matter, but on a fundamentally health matter. As with coronavirus, we see that health issues should not be politicized, and it's actually dangerous ground for a government to be stepping into and making political decisions based on right or left leanings when the subject matter pertains to a scientific and a health and an objective issue that doesn't care about your opinion of the subject. A final problem with this issue is that the Constitutional Court, which has made this decision, is fundamentally comprised of judges who were elected by the current governing party. So already in such a case we should have alarm bells where there's not really a balance of opinions on a decision kind of panel. There might be some bias included in that. It's always good to have a mix of views and a balance of political stances when making any decision, especially such a serious one, in order to encourage discussion, encourage debate, and not fall into kind of petty confirming of each other's views that we all believe in, because that doesn't yield progress. So that's another thing that I would like to call out. Okay, so what can be done now? We've identified that there are fundamentally three problems with this case. One, that the government is not making a decision that reflects the action of the people it governs, because the majority of abortions last year were in the case of fetal defects, and that is precisely the thing being banned now. The second issue is that the Constitutional Court doesn't seem to be balanced. It's comprised mainly of right-wing judges, so that certainly won't lead to good debate and discussion. And thirdly, we can question whether this is a political issue at all, whether fetal defects aren't just a health issue into which opinion and politics shouldn't get too involved. So in order not to do what the Constitutional Court might have done, I certainly encourage you all to discuss this with me in the comments, with each other, try and spread the message of this alarming decision that has come to be. Whenever there is something that troubles us, we have to identify the so-called circle of concern, the thing that worries us in general, and then the circle of influence, the part of that general worry that we actually have an effect upon, and that's where we should concentrate our actions and remain kind of stoic to the things that we have no effect on, because we won't ever be able to control the whole situation. So that's one of the reasons why I'm actually making this video, because I have an effect on that. I am able to put some kind of opinion or some statement out there. I know that the law has not yet been signed. I don't really know how that can be prevented though, but a good idea might be to protest, but I don't know how safe that is right now with coronavirus, or to spread the word and spread the issue so that people can be informed, because the ability to have a lot of information and to question the things that have happened is crucial to the making of intelligent and sane decisions. So I would just encourage you all to really just spread the issue so that some kind of consensus, some kind of discussion can be reached. So that's it from me today. Stay safe, wear a mask, and I'll see you later.